Good afternoon, everybody. This is the tip of the week. So for the month of April, I'm going to have a running theme of falls prevention. Okay, so that's for either yourselves or if you have any relatives who are having near misses or you feel that are at risk of falls or have had falls in the past, these are really good tips for you to be aware of. So today's tip of the day is, do you have a falls action plan? Or does your relative have a falls action plan? Now, as physiotherapists, what we do if we come out to see you, if you've had any near misses or lack of balance or have had falls, we will go through what's called a multifactorial falls risk assessment with you. And one of the first things that we will ask you is, do you have a falls action plan? Now, what I mean by that are the sort of following points for you to consider. So, if you were to have a fall, once you have had your fall, how would you summon help? Okay, it is a really stressful thing to happen to either yourself or your relative. You feel very out of control once you've had a fall and you go into panic mode. So sometimes when you have an action plan, once you've had your fall, you can then be aware of, okay, I know what I have to do. So the first step is, how would I summon help? I've had my fall and I'm now on the floor. How do I summon help to say to somebody, I've had a fall and I'm requiring assistance? Now, there's options out there that we can use for that. So sometimes people, do they carry their mobile phone on their person? Do they have a telephone in the main rooms where they sit during the day? Or do they have what's called a border care alarm, which is a pendant that can either be worn around the neck or on the wrist, whereby you can press a button to then summon help, to notify somebody that you're having difficulty. Okay, so that's the first thing. How do you summon help? Point number 2 is, how do I check for injuries? So I'm now on the floor and I'm not very sure if I have injured myself or not. Do I know how to check for injuries? Okay. Number 3 is, how would I be able to move around the floor? Okay, so I've had my fall, I've checked for injuries and I feel that I don't have any significant injuries. I can move around the floor, but how would I be able to do that? All right. The next point would be, I'm able to move around the floor. I don't feel I've got an injury. How would I get up from the floor? And that is a very daunting prospect for people, because when you're down on the floor, getting up from the floor can feel like a long way. Okay, so do you have an action plan in place for how would I be able to get up from the floor? If your relative or yourself have problems with your knees or with your hips, or you have any difficulty with pain and you think, okay, I would not be able to get up from the floor, then what would your plan be if you were to have a fall? How would you be able to, one, summon help to get assistance? And then what would the steps going forward be? And there's lots of options out there. Some of the time it can be to call an ambulance for assistance. Other times if it, say, falling was to be a regular occurrence, then that would be the point where you'd be thinking, okay, maybe getting a physiotherapy assessment to help us with our falls action plan and try to prevent falls in the first place may be a good idea. And there's other equipment on the market which can help if you are having a fall and how to rise to make that a little bit easier too. Okay, so we have, how do I summon help? How do I check for injuries? How am I able to move about on the floor? And how am I able to get up from the floor? And if you are on the floor and you've had an injury and you think, okay, I'm in too much pain, I'm not able to get up from the floor, the last point is, how do I keep myself warm until assistance arrives? Because you will be in shock. Okay, it's a stressful time having a fall and you're on the floor. But the one thing to remember is, once you're on the floor, you can't go any further. So it's about trying to take some deep breaths and trying to think about, okay, what is my action plan and how do I keep myself warm, and moving the limbs that you feel comfortable to move to keep your circulation going so you don't have any pressure areas, and then keeping yourself warm until that help arrives. So I hope that information has been useful, and I want it to be a sort of starting kind of thinking block before we go forward and think about talking about falls prevention in a bit more detail. Okay, so for yourselves or for your relatives, it's worthwhile saying to them, do you have a falls action plan? If you were, for the worst case scenario, to have a fall, do you know what the plan would be for getting yourself up? If you feel that you have a relative who is having regular near misses or has had more than 3 falls during this course of the year, it might be beneficial for you to have a multifactorial falls risk assessment completed, whereby we would have a look at your environment, we would have a look at your strength and your balance, and then we would also have a look at your mobility to see if there was anything that Home Physio by Nicola could help you with. If that's the case, then you can contact me on 0777 866 3470, or you can email me on nicola.coburn@homephysionicola.co.uk, and we can go through a free half-hour telephone assessment whereby I can tell you some tips and things to help you, and also describe to you what I could do to help improve things for you. I hope that's been of help, and tune in for next week because we're going to talk about how do you get up from the floor? What is the easiest way to get up from the floor? And I will try to record a wee video demonstration so that you have that to kind of look back on after the live as well. Okay, have a good day everybody. Bye bye.